Thank you all for your testimony here this morning. Mr. Ramos, let me begin with you. I think you have heard, as you've listened to the questions directed to Governor Rosselló, some frustration, maybe a fair bit of frustration, questions about why mutual aid was not triggered earlier, obviously questions about the whitefish contract and what has happened with that. Clearly an issue of concern for all of us. As Senator Cantwell mentioned, it's one thing to be responsive in the immediate aftermath of our hurricane. It's another thing to be engaged in something that we would all call gouging of the taxpayer when you look at the terms that were agreed to. You have indicated, and the governor said this as well, that right now it's about 49% power throughout Puerto Rico. We recognize that particularly in the more interior parts of the island, it's going to be a long time before we see power to the island. There was an article just a couple days ago that on Thursday there was a major outage in the area that apparently that whitefish had been working, and that you literally went from, and this is quoting this article, went from 40% of power down to 18%. Question to you is, have we gone backwards in certain areas? Have we seen parts of the efforts that were rebuilt failing? The 49% that you're saying today is something that I understand is fluid. The governor has said that he wants to be 95% by the end of the year. Is that realistic? And really, what does that mean? Because what I was told was that may be 95% to certain areas, but long-term for the island of Puerto Rico, when do you realistically envision power to the full island? So several questions there for you.
Yes. So let's go to the first one. We suffered an outage last week, not related to anything failing on any already repaired infrastructure. After the failure, we flew over in helicopters to find out the reason. We believe, because they denied it, there was an overhead crane working not for PREPA, something else, and it touched one of the conductors. Certainly the system auto-protects, but that line is the only line that is tying the south, where most of the generation resides, to the north. Therefore, and most of the load is on the north. So therefore, we went down to about 18%. To give you an example, about 65% of the load is in the metropolitan area, which is about 5 to 6 towns joined together.
So is this back online now?
It is. Oh, it was back online. The line was re-energized within 1 hour because it didn't have any failures, nothing to fix. And then the system restoration takes time, restoring the already repaired circuits, because we still don't have all of the communication with our substations. Therefore, every time the power goes out, men have to go to each substation and open each circuit. When the power in the transmission system is restored, men have to go physically to each substation and throw the switches to return power back to the people. But right now, we're 49%.
How about meeting the deadlines?
I'm sorry?
How about meeting the end-of-year deadline that the governor has set for 95%?
The deadline is for tomorrow, 50%, and we are at 49% today, so we feel very confident that we'll be meeting that deadline.
And then for the year end at 95%?
Year ends at 95%. It is a hard deadline to meet. We're working very conscious about it. We are focused on our work. We believe we can reach it.
Is it fair, though, to acknowledge that there will be parts of the island that will be without power for a significant period of time?
Certainly, and let me put this in context. Hurricane Hugo in 1989, when PREPA had 4,000 additional employees than it does today, and where the system was certainly in better condition than previous to Maria, took 6 months. 6
But
months.
we don't want that to be a standard.
We
for
don't want
anybody.
that to be a
think we
standard.
all
I agree,
recognize
but yeah, every time an expert from the U.S. has come to Puerto Rico to help us, and we're very grateful, we take him in on a helicopter trip, and the jaw drops because of the rugged terrain, the amount of damage. So we need to keep that in perspective. We are bringing in now, through APPA and the EEI, a lot more resources. We've been in discussions since basically last week, trying to get hotel rooms which are not available. I think we've reached an agreement where people that are already there will, of course, they already have hotels. We provide them to them, and then the rest may be in camps, like military-type camps.
I think, though, Mr. Ramos,
Yep.
that some of the frustration was, as I mentioned with the previous panel, that there truly was a full month of recovery effort that was lost. When you have individuals within DOE and the Army Corps suggesting that really the recovery began when that mutual aid, when APPA was brought in, when EEI was brought in, you can certainly understand the frustration not only of the people of Puerto Rico, but those of us that, well, all Americans who want to be there to be helpful and supportive. Let me go to Senator Cantwell.
Thank you, Madam Chair.